Yan! Hello mga kameta! Kumusta kayo dyan? As you can hear dito sa boses natin, ayan, umabol pa tayo dito sa mga obligations natin. Ito, breaking news! Breaking news, si Vladimir Putin, ito yung presidente ng Russia, but of course, para sa ating mga Pilipino, mahalaga din siya because siya po yung idol ng ating tatay. Si Tatay Digong, pinaka-idol niya yan, ha? Si Vladimir Putin po ay reportedly is skipping so Vladimir Putin is skipping itong upcoming Brics Summit, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Summit, dyan sa South Africa very soon dahil nga dito sa ICC, International Criminal Court warrant of arrest na issue sa kanya earlier this year. Alam ko maraming mga katatay dyan, maraming mga, alam niyo na, pinagtatawanan itong ICC warrant issue. Sinasabi na walang kwenta yan, walang saysay yan, walang ambag yan. Yan, pinagtatawanan yung ICC. Sabi ko parate, there will be diplomatic costs. There will be diplomatic costs. At ngayon pala nakikita natin na itong leader of Russia ay nahihirapan na po na pumasok dito sa summit of the biggest emerging powers in the world. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and of course South Africa also there. Dahil nga, ang South Africa po ay kasama po sa International Criminal Court at they have to abide by the principles of the International Criminal Court at may warrant of arrest kay Putin. So, even if, mahalaga yan, because even if South Africa po ay isang supposedly neutral country, no? Even if supposedly neutral country po sila, they had to really discuss this very sensitive issue dahil nga attendance or personal presence of Putin could create a lot of complications, no? So let's look at the news. Now, obviously, mahalaga yan, mga ka-Haydarians, mga katatays, yan. Dahil nga, mahalaga yan dahil, of course, alam natin, the ICC is also closing in on another tatay. Well, not necessarily another tata, but closing on at least potentially the officials of the former administration dito sa Pilipinas at may implication din yan. So, ayan na. Dito nakikita natin, obviously, of course, walang kakayahan ng ICC na personally magpadala ng mga parang barangay officials or parang police na knock on the door. Hindi nila magawa yan. Obvious yan, given yan. But, the idea na walang saysay at all yung ICC, yung idea na walang kwenta yung ICC, well, dito nakikita natin na is even if ang pinag-usapan dito, sitting leader of one of the most powerful countries on earth, ang pinag-usapan dito, even siya, nahihirapan na siya ngayon to conduct normal diplomacy, to be treated with the respect and dignity of the head of state, of not just any country, but the biggest nation on earth, at least geographically speaking. So based dito, so ito po yung report. Based on mutual agreement, pinag-usapan ng South Africa yan at mga Russians. At ang kasunduan ay hindi na pwede maka-attend si Putin sa meeting na yan. Yun nga, because it puts South Africa in a very, very tough spot. Of course, South Africa, katulad ng Pilipinas, sabi ko nga, is a neutral country. But even if it's a neutral country, it cannot ignore international law totally. And it cannot risk its own position, not only in terms of yung compliance niya as a member of the Rome Statute in the ICC, but also in terms of yung reputation niya with the other democratic nations, no? Na alam niyo na, meron ng panindigan dito sa issue ng human rights and crimes against humanity and war crimes amongst others, no? So, pag-usapan natin yan very shortly and then i-connect natin dito sa case ng Pilipinas because the ICC, of course, also had the recent ruling. And mukhang decidido na rin ng ICC na maimbestiga ang situation sa Pilipinas, especially under the previous administration, whose president was, of course, a big fanboy of Tatay Putin. Okay, ito let's talk about this. So, kakalabas lang itong news na to. Ayan. Ito. So, sabi ng Russian President Vladimir Putin, hindi na siya mag-attend. Ayon sa South African presidency, hindi na mag-attend si Putin dun sa Brics Group of Nations Summit next month. At ito po ay based on so-called mutual agreement. So by mutual agreement, President Vladimir Putin of the Russian Federation will not attend the summit but the Russian Federation will be represented by Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov. Ito po yung sinabi ni Vincent Maguenya, ang spokesman ni President Cyril Ramaphosa ng South Africa po. Of course, ito po yung problema para sa South Africa because South Africa is hosting the summit as a member of the Brics, but is also the member of the International Criminal Court na nag-issue ng arrest warrant kay Putin noong March earlier this year for alleged war crimes dito sa giyera sa Ukraine. So this will be a very tough situation at of course, kung inarrest naman nila ni Putin ay wala na, giyera na yan, hindi nila gagawin yan, pero at the same time, they cannot just completely ignore the ISIS situation. No? So kaya even if neutral yung position ng Africa, they had to politely ask Putin, I'm sorry sir, medyo malabo itong situation na to. Now, this is not the first time that we saw a head of state, a sitting head of state, has been essentially frozen out of international diplomacy. Back in 2015, South Africa also refused to arrest then Sudanese leader Omar al-Bashir. But si Omar al-Bashir, yung dating leader ng Sudan, actually had a lot of problems when he was traveling internationally dahil dun sa ICC warrant. So sometimes he had to travel to country X, country Y para hindi siya dadaan sa European countries or yung mga bansa na nag-ratify ng Rome Statute or miyembro ng ICC. So imagine the kind of pariah status it gives you, no? Yung parang rogue ka, no? You have to go around different, so hindi ka pwede dumaan siguro sabihin natin sa Amsterdam International Airport or Paris or Berlin or London. Dadaan ka na lang siguro sa mga ibang bansa kahit haba yung mga trips mo. And in fact, when the ICC warrant of arrest was issued against Omar al-Bashir, the former Sudanese leader, well, the situation there was actually drastically nag-reduce yung kanilang foreign trips. Although, pumunta naman siya sa China at some point. I remember the news back then. But it was very difficult. It was very embarrassing. He was like a fugitive going internationally. Now, going back to this, what is interesting here is that back in 2015, South Africa also failed to arrest then Sudanese leader Omar al-Bashir, was also subject of ICC warrant when dumaan siya sa South Africa back then. But this time, ang sinasabi ng South Africa, wag ka na dumaan dito, Sir Putin. Maging medyo komplikado ng usapan. So this time, actually, South Africa is even becoming more strict about this issue. That tells you about how things have deteriorated in terms of international diplomacy for a supposed superpower. Just to put things into context, no? There are a number of articles that I think you guys have to read. Especially one of them is by really a top experts, a former Kremlin correspondent, someone I had a chance to meet on multiple occasions. The other year, of course, in Europe, in Estonia, etc. He's a Russian expert yan, si Alex. Fantastic guy. I really suggest you guys to read his work. I actually quoted from that recently. Ito, no? So itong idea of from great power, from superpower to pariah status, this issue has been gaining ground since last year. But now you have a situation whereby, nasan na ako? But now you have a situation whereby meron ka ng warrant of arrest, right? So this is a tricky situation. Let me, get it out. So, ito po, this is the article that I really suggest you guys to read. It's really a fantastic article. Ito. Wait lang Medyo may na-press tayo ng mali. Ganun talaga. Ay. Parang sinasabotage na ako Wait lang. Ito. Okay. Let me bring out that article. One second. Wala kasi production team Okay. This is a very good piece. And actually, I responded to some of our good friends, including from media friends who were raising questions about the effectiveness or yung value or ambag or saysay ng ISIS. I said, well, maybe you have to read this piece. This is a very important piece. Putin the Pariah. This was written by one of the top experts on Russia. Now, this is a person, si Alexander Baunov. He actually predicted the invasion of Ukraine last year, and he was one of the persons that I read. I had a chance also to meet last year. I had virtually also met him the other year prior to the invasion of Ukraine. So I have high regard for this person. He knows what he's doing. He was a correspondent in Kremlin. He was a top expert based in Moscow for many years, but recently had to move out of the country. Of course, you know the situation in Russia nowadays. So ito po yung article niya, Putin the Pariah, How Sanctions and Threat of Prosecution Have Impaired Russia's President. Ito yung sinulat niya nung May pa lang. At noon May pa lang sinasabi niya na ang Russia po ay hindi lang sanctioned by the leading economies in the world, but now you have a situation whereby the head of the state, no less than Putin, someone who was seen as a very powerful man, as a very important man, now dahil sa warrant of arrest sa ICC, medyo nahihirapan na siya para mag-flex ng diplomatic muscle. So when he wants to go abroad, dapat they have to coordinate, they have to have negotiations, etc. because it's a very complicated situation, no? So this is especially complicated when you talk about more and more important countries out there, right? Whether you're talking about South Africa, India. So we also have to see kung later this year, dun sa summit sa G20 sa India, whether Putin will be welcome. My hunch is there'll be a lot of negotiations for Putin to go to India because of this close relationship between two countries, way closer than between South Africa and Russia. But maybe the situation right now with the Brics summit, which is a very important summit, will set the tone. And you may have a situation whereby more and more important countries will not host Putin. Now, Putin, of course, can go to, I don't know, some of the Eastern countries in Central Asia because of the special relationship they have with Russia or special vulnerability, some would say. But, this is going to be nothing like the status of diplomatic prestige and influence that Russia used to enjoy back in the day. So the ICC warrant of arrest matters. And it also matters to us in the Philippines because, well, pinag-usapan natin, here is the leader of one of the most powerful countries on earth. What about, ang pinag-usapan natin connect the dots yourself, of course, you know what we're implying here. Now, of course, that brings us back to the case of the Philippines. Now, there are some people who are saying we're hopeful na we may have a reversal of situation whereby Leila de Lima may walk free in the coming months. There's no assurance of that. Some are saying at best it's 50-50. I'm slightly more optimistic than that. And you may have a situation whereby ICC actually moves ahead with even potentially issuing warrants of arrest or going more aggressively against top officials from the previous administration in the Philippines who were allegedly involved in mass atrocities. Mass atrocities. So tingnan natin itong mga to. Mahalaga to. So actually si Leila de Lima, the other day lang, nag-release siya ng statement, right? At sabi niya, the world is getting smaller. The world is getting smaller. Well, of course, this applies in a way also to Putin because nahirapan siya to travel around the world and attend big events. But ayon kay De Lima, the world is also getting smaller for the previous administration in the Philippines because, well, there were multiple attempts by the current administration and holdovers from the previous administration, of course, reappointed a different position, to say that, no, sorry, wala kayong jurisdiction. Well, that's how, you cannot just say, wala kayong jurisdiction and then pilitin mo yan. Well, we have a top international court. We have top experts. Everyone's saying that, actually, pagdating sa issue ng jurisdiction, whatever spin ang gustong gawin ng mga katatay dyan or whatever, well, actually, it has been resolved. The appeal na hindi mag-proceed yung jurisdiction ay na-struck down. And the argument stands that there is a jurisdiction by the International Criminal Court because so far, if you have thousands or if not tens of thousands of alleged extrajudicial, violent cases of violence and abuse, then bakit? Ilan na ba ulit? Ilan ulit ang nadisiplina? Ilan ulit ang nakulong dahil sa issue na yan? 5, 3, 4, 10, 7, 20? So what are we talking about here? You're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of cases out there, and then after how many years na? 6 years? 5 years? Ilan lang ang So the argument that we should just leave it to local institutions and courts and all because they're doing their job very well, that's something to be proven. And so far, the track record, the quantitative and the qualitative case, is not working in favor of the argument that ICC does not have jurisdiction. So what I'm saying here is this. Hindi mo pwede sabihin na walang saysay ang ICC when the leader of the second most powerful country on earth, at least based on some statistics, very raw statistics, or at least the leader of the biggest nation on earth in terms of geography and one of the biggest nuclear powers on earth, number 1 or number 2, depending on how you count the nuclear warheads in Russia. If yung leader naman ganyang bansa, sitting leader, not ex-private citizen leader, but a sitting president, ay ngayon hirap na. He has to skip big events like Brics. Brics is big. Brazil is there. Lula is there, who's a good friend. China is there. Xi Jinping, good friend. Andun rin si Narendra Modi, but he has to skip that. Baka mamaya sa India rin, hindi siya makapasok later this year for G20. Or even if he goes to G20 later this year, still, I mean, oof, it's a tricky situation. Ang dami mga awkwardness around that. Now, imagine that if Putin has to tiptoe around things because of ditong ICC warrant of arrest, then imagine yung situation kung may warrant of arrest against ex-officials from the Philippines, which is not among the most powerful countries on earth. And then you can imagine what could be the implications. A lot. So the next steps could be very simple. Hindi na makapunta sa Amerika, sa Europa, sa Japan, sa Korea, sa maraming mga matitinong bansa ang mga ex-officials ng dating administration, yung mga allegedly nasangkot dun sa sa mass atrocities, hindi na sila makapunta. Now, sabi nung isa, wala siyang pake, hindi naman siya pumunta sa US, etc. But alam natin, yung iba gusto nilang pumunta sa US. Naalala niyo, yung visa issue back in 2020, biglang nadamay pa yung VFA, etc. Well, connect the dots yourself, no? So, again, going back to this, yes, ICC is not 10 in a sense of coming in and arrest. No, but it's not 0 too. And probably it's more than 5. And that matters. If it matters enough for Putin not be able to go to South Africa, imagine how much it would matter if it affects an ex-president of a non-superpower country, right? And imagine if this also concerns not so high-level officials from the former administration, right? So I'm just saying ICC matters, and let's watch very closely how Putin's room for maneuver will be affected by the ICC warrant of arrest, as we also watch whether the ICC will also move ahead with issuing warrants of arrest against former officials in other countries, including hope. All right, maraming salamat mga kamet. I hope you appreciate this interventions na meron tayo. I don't know how many people appreciate the nicety of this. Okay, ito na naman. I'm seeing again all of this kind of whataboutism. Again, hindi tamang yung US for not being part of the International Criminal Court. That doesn't make it okay. Alright? That doesn't make it... Gets nyo ba? Pangalawa, hindi tayo superpower. Right? Hindi tayo kata ng US. But that's not a good argument, right? The better argument is this. Yung mali ng Amerika, or mali ng Trump administration, or mali ng Bush administration sa issue ng ICC, doesn't make it correct for other countries. And last time I checked, hindi po sangkot ang mga American administration in mass atrocities against their own citizens. Their own citizens, right? Ibang usapan yan. Meron bang mga EJ case na systematic na tens of thousands sa Amerika? Wala. So, I have a big problem dito dun sa mga ibang academics or yung mga apologists na are trying to say, oh, what about US ganito? Oh, what about China ganito? Well, we're talking about the basic issue. The basic issue is this. Ang pinag-usapan dito ay hindi violence against other countries, invasion of Afghanistan. Mali talaga yun. Mali talaga yung invasion of Iraq. Mali talaga yung invasion of Afghanistan. Mali talaga. Well, invasion of Afghanistan, there was the Taliban aspect, but many things went wrong. Mali din yung withdrawal from Afghanistan, the way they withdrew. Of course, mali yun. But that doesn't excuse, right, yung mass atrocity against your own citizens, right? And that doesn't mean baliwalang lang natin. By the way, unlike the US, we actually were a member of ICC at some point. We joined the ICC in 2011 until we pulled out. But by the time that we pulled out, the ICC already had jurisdiction on us for a very, very long time. And actually, the ICC is making an argument that the jurisdiction will even extend beyond the Philippines withdrawal. The US case was not a case of withdrawal. They never joined to begin with. Again, that doesn't make it right on the part of US. But the wrong of America doesn't make the wrong of other countries right. Do you get what I'm saying? Yun yung ayokong pag-iisip eh. Yung idea of whataboutism. I am absolutely 100% for perspective. Totoo yan. Hindi natin sinasabi na tama Amerika. Mali talaga Amerika sa maraming bagay, including dito sa issue ng ICC. Including dun sa mga sinabi nila sa ICC over alleged cases of abuses sa Afghanistan and others. Absolutely. Hindi tayo, we're not here to apologize for the, for yung mga mali ng mga Western powers. But to use yung mga mali ng Western powers to excuse yung mali ng kabila or yung mga ibang bansa, well, mali po talaga yan. Walang kwenta yung mga ganitong arguments. No offense to our friends there. Okay? So please lang, I don't want to see and love that nonsense arguments. Alright? Ayoko makita yung mga nonsense na argument na yan. At alam natin dyan, yung mga nagre-raise ng ganitong argument, ito ay may mga political agenda or ito ay mga tao na na partisan. Tinitignan lang nila yung interest ng amo nila, dating amo nila, yung mga dating iniidolo nila or whatever, right? As far as we're concerned, we're talking about objectively what are the diplomatic implications if an ICC warrant is issued potentially against other people, because Putin pala nakikita natin na medyo nahihirapan na siya as early as now pa lang. So I'm just stating that in objective terms. But morally speaking, I rather care about, right? I rather care about the lives of the Filipino people, right? I rather care about making sure kung may drug war tayo, maayos siyang ginagawa, hindi bara-bara. Now, soon, of course, you will see a version of back and forth discussion I had with Banat Bay, one of the chief empresarios, to put it nicely, of former president, and look at how I question yung kanyang logic dun sa drug war. As I said, hindi mo kailangan sunugin yung buong hen house para kumuha ng fried chicken. Pwede ka kumuha ng fried chicken kung pumili ka ng target ka ng masasarap na matataban na chicken dyan, tapos kunin mo, tapos lutuin mo na mabuti. Hindi mo kailangan ng bara-bara style. That's how it works. And yung argument na, you don't know what's happening on the ground, maybe these people also don't know how it works, actually, because they're not studying what's happening all around the world, right? And there's no evidence whatsoever that really big fish or really sustainable solutions were offered. Hanggang ngayon, wala pa tayong matinong mga numbers to know exactly how the situation improved over those years. So yun lang. Sorry lang. I just don't buy those kinds of what about these arguments because palusot lang yan sa akin. And yes, mali America doesn't make it right for us to do crazy things or for Russia to do crazy things or for China. Hindi. Kaya sangayon ako dun sa leader ng Chile, si Boric, na sinasabi niya, ang issue ng Ukraine ay hindi ito issue. Ang issue Ukraine is not about anong side ka, NATO ka ba, Russia. No, the issue of Ukraine is about caring for other countries. And it's about making sure na kahit anong bansa ka, hindi ka pwede sugurin lang ng kung sino-sino. Whether it's from the West or whether from the East. A wrong is a wrong. A wrong is a wrong. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And imperialism and wrong things are not just Western. They're also non-Western. Alright? You can fill in the gaps yourself. So yun lang. So yun ang sinasabi ko ngayon. So please lang, don't drop mga apologists, mga ganyan. Medyo predictable masyado yung mga ganyan argument na, ginawa ng US ganito, ganito. Yeah, marami silang ginawa mali. So ibig sabihin, okay lang na susugurin lang Russia yung ibang bansa, na okay lang na susugurin ng China ang West Philippine Sea or Taiwan. Anong klaseng pag-iisip yan? Or okay lang na magda-drug war ka na bara-bara na ganyan-ganyan ang kalabasan? Hindi. Mag-isip naman sana kayo, di ba? Mag-isip naman sana tayo. Hindi lang tayo maghanap ng palusot. Hindi lang tayo maghanap ng I have nothing against any of the presidents. Duterte, BBM, Aquino, I have talked to all of them, or I have not talked to them, or at least I met them, or whatever. I had more discussions with some President Arroyo. I had a long interview with her, with Ramos. So, ako personally, I have no issue with any of the presidents. But I have clear disagreements on moral grounds, on policy grounds, on national interest grounds, but on human grounds. So, as I always said, hindi mo kailangan sunugin yung buong bahay ng mga manok para kumuha ka ng fried chicken. Ang mga ganyan mag-isip ay hindi dapat maging leader or hindi dapat magsalita ukol sa mga public policy issues because obviously yung kanilang pag-iisip ay hindi po belonging to the 21st century. Sa 21st century po, ginagamit po ay evidence-based public policy para sustainable, proportionate, and effective. Now, kung ayaw mag-isip ng ganyan, gusto niyo bara-bara, edi punta kayo sa fifth world, fourth world country. You don't belong to a country that wants to enter the 21st century. Simple lang po yung argument natin. Alright? Again, going back to this, we are just providing you an objective analysis of what are the diplomatic implications of an ICC warrant of arrest. And we have proven 100% that it matters. It may not matter as much as some proponents or supporters want, but the idea na walang saysay ang ICC, well, either you don't know what you're talking about or nagbubulag-bulagan lang kayo or ignoramos lang talaga kayo. Because Putin pa lang, a world leader, a very powerful leader, a sitting president pa lang, medyo hirap na hirap siya. Alright? Now, for sure, isispin na naman yan, right and left, given na yan, ganun naman talaga. Yung mga may masasamang agenda, yung mga palusot boys, gagawin nila yan, isispin nila yan. Pero yung mga nag-iisip, yung mga may puso, may pagmamahal, may malasakit, may takot sa Diyos, right? Alam nyo ano yung tama. So please lang, wag natin gamitin yung mali ng ibang bansa para excuse or palusot-lusot style dun sa mali ng mga sarili or yung mga ibang bansa na hindi galing dun sa isang kampo. Alright? Mag-isip naman tayo sana. Alright? Okay, saan yung ating pananampalataya? Okay? Ganito. Let me end on this note. I know back in the day, emotions were high. Politics was polarized. There was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of disinformation, unfortunately. Naintindihan ko yan. But 2023 na po. Iba na po yung presidente. Iba na po yung panahon. Sana naman, yung mga ibang ating mga kababayan, sana naman, alam nyo naman talaga ano yung tama. Alright? Huwag na natin daan ito sa partisanship, sinong manok mo, sinong ganyan. Alam natin ano yung tama. Alam natin ang tama. Because lahat tayo dito gusto natin tulungan ang ating bansa. Pero mahalaga din yung paraan. Kung mali yung paraan, compromise yung resulta. Right? Again, go back to that. You don't have to burn down the hen house to get a fried chicken. Hindi mo kailangang sunugin mo yung bahay ng mga manok para kumuha ka ng fried chicken. Ang mga nag-iisip na ganyan, they don't belong to the 21st century public policy. Ganon dapat mag-isip. So yung mga pa-excuse dyan, palusot dyan, I'm sorry. That argument is not only laughable, but that argument actually is morally questionable. Again, with all due respect. Now, again, just to be also clear, mali din yung ginagawa ng mga countries. For sure, 100%. Very critical ako dun sa invasion of war of Iraq. I completely disagree with that. It was wrong. Galit ako kay Saddam. He was a horrible person, pero hindi dapat sinugod ang Iraq ng ganyan. Galit tayo sa Taliban, pero hindi tama yung ginawa nila na nag-withdraw sila sa Afghanistan. But does that make it okay na ginanon lang yung Ukraine or gaganin yung Taiwan or gaganin sa West Philippine Sea or gaganin yung mga para-bara EJKKs, gano'n? No! Mag-isip kayo. Alright? Saan naman yung ating mga pananampalataya? Alam nyo naman sa puso nyo ano talagang tama. Okay? Huwag na natin pilitin. Please lang. Because you had 6 years to think. Sana naman may redemption factor. Sana naman may reflection factor. Sana naman may soul searching. Yun lang naman eh. So for all the pangangasar or arguments, everything I make, at the end of the day, it's all about this. It's about conscience. Alright? It's about reflection. It's about redemption. Kung anong reliyon nyo, or wala kayong reliyon, wala ibang usapan na yan, but you know what is right eh. You know what is right eh. So please lang, wag mo yung mga palusot style na ganyan. Again, with all due respect to other people. So please, the wrong of the West doesn't make the wrong of the non-West okay. And sometimes the wrong of the non-West could be even worse than the wrong of West today. Even if ang daming maling ginawang West throughout the colonial period, of course, they did many wrong things 100 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. Given yan, alright. Or even 10, 20 years ago, let's say in the case of Middle East. Tama yan. I agree, I have very strong stance against interventions of the West. But that never should blind us dun sa mali ng iba. Bilang isang developing country, bilang isang mas maliit na bansa, not small, pero mas maliit na bansa, bilang isang post-colonial country, bilang isang bansa na lumaban sa mga colonial powers, sana naman magpakita din tayo ng solidarity. Pero at the same time, bilang mga mamayan Pilipino, bilang tao, or bilang Christian or Muslim or whatever religion nyo, magpakita din tayo ng compassion and understanding at bigyan natin ng kahalaga ng buhay ng tao. Right? Now, in situations of war, unfortunate casualties happen, yes. But there are wars of choice and there are wars of necessity. And on their wars of choice, they're dumb wars. They're very dumb wars. Alright? As Obama discussed the Iraq War. Well, guess what? Kung hindi rin tama yung approach mo sa krimen, yung mga ganyan, you may end up with a similar situation. Alright? Now, again, I'm not here to convince everyone in the direction of the light. Right? You cannot do that overnight. It will take time. Pero at least, alam ko, ang konsensya ko ay klaro dahil nga, alam ko, ginawa ko yung kailangan kong gawin. Whenever I had the chance to get the right message out, I did it. Alright? So wala akong pake dun sa mga arguments sa mga apologists or what about this or spin masters or trolls or bloggers, whatever. Bahala kayo. Kung gusto niyo pakinggan yung mga yun, bahala kayo. Pero alam nyo, sa loob, anong tama. Kahit hindi kayo makinig sa akin, alam niyo yung tama. So I'm just reminding you of what you already know. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm just reminding you guys of what you always knew. As a Christian, as a Filipino, as a Muslim, as a man of God, as a woman of God, alam niya yung tama. Alright? But again, going back to what I said, ang trabaho ko rin bilang analyst is to look at actual realities on the ground And ang actual reality po dito is the diplomatic situation ay nag-complicate for the sitting president, not ex-president, sitting president of one of the most powerful countries on earth. So kung isang tao na kasing lakas nito ay naapektuhan na ngayon sa ICC warrant of arrest, anong tingin niyo sa mga henyo na nagsabi na walang saysay itong ICC na to? In the case of ex-officials and whatever from whatever. Right? Gets you na ba yan? So I'm providing you both logic but also reminding you of your moral conscience. Yun po yung ginagawa natin dito. Alright? O, kitang-kita niyo na. Again ha, you don't have to burn down the whole hen house to get a fried chicken. Right? Or, alam niyo, di ba, yung parable nung bear, di ba, na may mosquito dun sa ng, di ba? To get rid of a mosquito dun sa amo mo, wag mo i-drop ng, di ba? Ng buong, di ba? Yun means matter. So Machiavelli was wrong on this. The end doesn't justify the means because the means can pollute the end. If the means is right, the end is not only fully justified but also sustainable. So the means is sometimes as important as the ends. Because, as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Especially when maganda intention mo, pero bara-bara ka mag-isip. Hindi ka matino mag-isip. Hindi ka prepared. Hindi ka mature enough to make top decisions in a very complicated situation. So I sincerely hope hindi natin mabago yung nangyari in the past. Kapalpakan ng mga iba't ibang administration. Again let's be clear. Hindi natin sinasabi na mali lang itong administration. Mali din yung mga dating administration na hindi naayos yung mga ibang problema, whether krimen, infrastruktura, NAIA, given na yan. We're not also excusing those guys. But what I'm saying here is this, diba? What I'm saying here is this. What we need is evidence-based, modern public policy. Otherwise, we will be stuck in this cycle forever. Mag-away tayo na mag-away, o presidente ko, presidente mo, and in the end, we're gonna end up just justifying and apologizing for incompetence or worse, right? Let's get out of that cycle. Ako, for me, some presidents are less worse than the others. But ang katotohanan po ay lahat ng ating mga pangulo, lahat ng ating mga administrasyon ay nagkakulang. So paano natin maayos itong sitwasyon na to? Hindi natin maayos ang sitwasyon na to kung hindi tayo maayos mag-isip at kung hindi maayos ang ating approach sa mga issues. At kung hindi tayo magkakaroon ng masinsinan na reflection, soul-searching, doon sa mga mali natin over the past. We cannot change who we voted for in the past. Well, I'm very proud of what I voted for or did not vote for. But in the case of other people, right? You don't have to force it. Binibigyan naman tayo ng pagkakataon ng Diyos, di ba? Na magkakaroon ng reflection sa buhay. Kaya nga, use it properly. Have a proper reflection. Maybe may dahilan na yung iba sa atin ay nanonood sa atin or nakikinig sa atin or drop by. Baka ito po ay this is a message, right? Na maybe it's time for us to to upgrade a bit, to reflect a bit, to have redemption, to have reflection, di ba? To have repentance, even. So, kaya parati ko sinasabi, yung mga opposition na kinakancel ang mga tao, kinakancel culture, binabastos yung mga voters, tapos, mali din yun Mali din yun. We all make mistakes, but what's important is we learn from our mistakes, we reflect our mistakes, and we move in the right direction. At hindi lang idaan sa payabang at manok ko, manok mo, ganun. Hindi. So let me end again on this note para ating muna. The means matter because you don't have to burn down the hen house to get a fried chicken. Kung matino yung means mo, you can get the ends with the minimal cost. And that's what responsible, modern, mature, and good competent leadership and governance is all about. On that note, thank you very much. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga sumusuporta sa atin. I really, really appreciate it. Alam ko, yung iba sa inyo ay curious. Yung iba sa inyo ay nandito lang para mag-criticize sa akin or mag-troll sa akin because hindi kayo natutuwa, nare-remind kayo, di ba? Alam ko di ba? Parang teacher yan, di ba? Kung teacher ka or parent ka, di ba? Tapos, alam mo may mali, tapos sasabihin mo, minsan mainis pa sila sa'yo, di ba? Alam ko yan. Naintindihan ko yan. And sometimes siguro yung pagkasabi ko, pagka-explain ko, medyo mayabang, medyo wala sa lugar, so na-hurt yung feelings ng iba. Pasensya na, but I hope you understand what we're trying to do here, okay? We're patiently, kahit anong oras, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 p.m., whatever, kahit anong sulok ng mundo. Nag-vlog tayo from all around the world, right? From Florence to Paris to, I don't know, Middle East, whatever. Nag-vlog tayo from all around the world. Tuloy-tuloy po itong usapan natin dahil alam natin na ito talagang kailangan natin. No? Masinsinan na pagsusuri. And ako rin po, marami ako natutunan, no? Habang nag-uusap po tayo, because it allows me also to sharpen my argument, but also to reflect on our own shortcomings at ano yung kailangan pa natin gawin to move forward. No? Kaysa ganyan-ganyan lang tayo. So yes, once in a while, I'll troll you back, etc. Because I care, right? Kasi kung mayabang lang ako, wala akong pakit, ba't ako mag-respond, di ba? Bahala kayo dyan. Pero hindi ako ganyan mag-isip. I engage. Minsan better, minsan not. But the point is I care. And that matters for me. And again, yes, means matters. That's why we're trying to improve it. So maraming salamat kay Norgelin Dalmasio for joining us. Liz Losayo, John Valenzuela, I saw your argument. Again, yes, all due respect to my former professor. She's entitled to her opinion. I have my own take. And as I said, my stance is negative times negative. And negative doesn't justify another negative. By whoever. Kay Gibet Tirol, kay Noemi Tablada, thank you very much. Kay Love Bonifacio, kay Ma'am Susan Bilas, yes, we say it as it is. Kay Kenneth Colminar, kay Ma'am Jocelyn Lumberio, kay Ma'am Comedies First, kay Francisco Tabanyag, ayan na, naging konya na naman yung pagkasabi natin. Ma'am Carissa Molanda, Heidi Callo, Kenna Colminar, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very, very kind of you, and I hope we can talk soon and catch up. God bless. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much also dito sa mga ating ka-YouTubers. Salamat kay Erwin Varela, kay Ma'am Ma Victoria, kay Science and Facts, ER, yan. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Kay amigo Salvatore, muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Eusebio Garcia. And of course, dito sa mga ka-spacers din natin. Ako, ang daming nag-join dito at interactive sa atin. Ayan, biglang naging emotional tayo, no? Now, you can see, no, where I'm coming from, no? Hindi lang po trabaho sa akin yan. Vocation po yan sa akin yan. I treat what we do here as a vocation. This is something that we feel it's our calling. We have to come out to call out what is wrong, but also encourage and inspire our leaders and our people in the right direction. That's the least I can do for our country. That's the least I can do as a scholar of Bayan, someone who benefited from the support of the Filipino people. My education was possible because of the support of Filipino people. So I'm extremely, extremely grateful for that. And this is the least I can do. On that note, thank you very much again, and God bless.